Today we're talking to Amelia Spinks, who's the Graduate Recruitment Manager at Phil Fisher Waterhouse. Thanks for talking to us, Amelia. Today we're talking about psychometric testing, so I guess I'll just start by asking, what are psychometric tests and why do law firms use them?
Well, psychometric tests cover a broad range of things, to be perfectly honest, but they tend to fall in two broad categories: personality and ability. We personally use ability tests here, but they're really used to measure and analyse someone's abilities and capabilities and compare them against a norm group, which for our graduates is the graduate population. The main reason why we're using them is because we receive so many applications. We need to look at ways to screen out applicants from quite an early stage, and for us we would prefer to do that on something which is a valid reason, such as the psychometric test, as opposed to something like exam results or which university someone went to.
And are psychometric tests used for all candidates?
Yeah, everybody will be sent the first of all psychometric test, which is a verbal reasoning test. Those who are successful will then be sent an inductive reasoning test, which is our second one. After that stage, that's when our application forms are really scored.
And what kind of characteristics are you looking for in psychometric tests?
So in the verbal reasoning test, that looks at how a candidate can understand and analyse written information. And really, that's the sort of thing which our lawyers do on a day-to-day basis, so it is proven that we need good verbal reasoning skills. The second is then the inductive reasoning test, and this one's a bit more about logic, and this one's assessing whether someone can deal with unfamiliar information and find a solution.
Can candidates practice for the test at all?
I don't think they can practice in terms of they can revise what the answers are going to be or anything like that, but the tests themselves can throw people when they first log on to an online test. What's that? What's on the screen? So I would always recommend that someone logs on, goes through a few of the practice questions first, just to familiarise themselves with the format of the page, navigation around the site.
People say that there are no right answers to this kind of test, but one recent example kind of demonstrates how a lot of the questions fall between asking candidates to make a choice between taking the initiative and possibly following procedure. One recent example used by Barlow, Lyden Gilbert was you're driving your injured friend to hospital and you have to stop at a red light. Do you either drive through the red light or wait for the red light to turn green? What kind of things are you looking for when law firms ask those questions?
In personality testing, I think that's probably what Barlow, Lyden Gilbert have got to there. They are looking for a particular profile, and in those psychometric tests there aren't any right or wrong answers. The personality profile that you get at the end of a personality test would really form part of the next stage of the recruitment process, so it'd be areas which they can probe a little bit more in an interview. The ability tests, which are the ones we use, there does tend to be right or wrong answers for those, and at the end of that you get a score as opposed to a profile, and it's whether you've met that criteria with your score.
Who assesses the tests once they've been completed? Do the graduate recruiters work together with partners and solicitors?
Once our psychometric tests are completed, we automatically get scores coming through from an online system. But from that stage on, then candidates will look at their application forms, and that will mainly be our fee earners from around the firm. We have about 40 who are really keen on graduate recruitment and looking at the future of the firm in its people. So they all get their form in a blind assessment method, whereby all personal data is taken out, and they are purely assessing the form on what's called the long answer questions. So, why do you want to work at Phil Fisher Waterhouse, for example? They're fully trained, and we feel that nobody really knows the job better than those guys do. They've been doing it for many years. It also helps us to ensure that every application form that gets to that stage is properly assessed in a fair manner, and because they only get a handful each, they can spend a bit of time, whereas some firms have one person assessing thousands of applications, and one minor error is the end of someone's career almost.
Obviously, it must be really essential to perform well on the verbal reasoning side of the test. Is it also really important to stay in the frame for a training contract to do well in the personality and the other sides of the psychometric test?
I think so. All psychometric tests are going to be important, and they will always be a reason why a firm goes down the route of the psychometric test they've decided to go with. For us, with our verbal reasoning and inductive reasoning tests, all of our trainees who hadn't done this in the process previously have done the test, as have some of our newly qualifieds, and we saw that there is a correlation between those that score really well, those that perform really well. So yeah, they're valid reasons.
Okay, great. Thanks for talking to us today, Amelia.
No problem.
Much appreciated. Thanks.
Thank you.